Welcome, friend, to Balance is Possible. I am George, and we are wayfinders. Together, we believe in the awesome potential that human beings have for insight, clarity, peace, balance. And since we're human, we know that we have that potential too. And so we learn about ourselves, raising our energy so that we enjoy life, and then so we can contribute our gifts to the world. And we do that learning journey together in community because we know the path to peace is one that we walk together. Welcome, fellow Wayfinder. Hope you are well today. Today we're going to be talking about pain. I'm going to make the case for why pain and feeling your pain actually can be a good thing, and maybe we should do it more. Say what? Feel our pain more? I thought the whole point of me going on this self-development journey and meditating and learning about myself is so that I don't have to feel the pain. But what if I was to share some ideas with you to say that actually that pain is actually serving a function, and there is a place for pain if we can see it in the right way. Because what is pain? Pain is feedback, right? If I put my hand in the toaster and I get electrocuted, I have pain running up my body. It's feedback from the wisdom of my body saying, don't do that. And then with mental pain, painful thoughts and emotions, it's the same sort of thing. It's pointing us towards there's an unmet need that you're experiencing. So, if I'm feeling insecure about whether or not somebody likes me, then that need that I have, that painful insecurity is bringing up. The deep unmet need that I perceive as unmet is a need for connection and for love. It's like how that person relates to me, how they message me, is then triggering my feelings of insecurity because I haven't grounded myself in that love and connection with myself. So already we're seeing that pain serves a function. If we're just to ignore those thoughts, then, we would just be observing these painful thoughts and emotions without really getting deep into why are they there in the first place and what is the unmet need at the source of that pain. Because if we can see, okay, well, actually, all this pain that I'm creating at the moment is coming from my need for connection. And what can I do to help me feel more connected? Maybe I need to change how I think about myself. Because yes, we do have just endless thoughts and emotions, and sometimes they're not rational, sometimes they're not useful, they're endless. So we just observe it, come back to the present moment, change how we relate to the present moment. But then actually, sometimes we need to listen to that pain and say, you know what, okay, there is something going on here. I need to nourish myself in other ways. Maybe need to step out of my comfort zone and go message some people or go into town and strike up a conversation with a person. So that pain led to solutions. If we weren't to feel the pain, then we would avoid and miss those solutions. There's a story I love of a person who was in therapy, and a psychologist said, well, maybe you could go to a mindfulness retreat, a 10-day silent meditation retreat, and you'll feel better. And so the person went to the retreat and had some really intense emotions coming up, strong emotions, grief, anger, shame. It was a challenge. And the person came out of the retreat, went to his therapist and said, you told me I would feel better, and I just felt grief and anger and shame. And the therapist said, well, you are feeling better, right? You're feeling your anger better, feeling your shame better, feeling your grief better. So sometimes the journey of healing, and not only sometimes, most of the time, is through the pain. Because it's then when we really face ourselves, we turn into, okay, who am I? What's here for me? Instead of just always running away from ourselves. We live in a society distracted by, giving us distractions in order so that we don't meet ourselves. So healing is possible if we, with as much courage and support as we can muster, to turn towards the pain. And then we get through the other side of it. We understand the nature of that pain and the path to freedom. Now, some criticisms of this, maybe in the self-development world, is, positive affirmations. Think positive thoughts, focus on the positive, and that's what you'll get. And in some ways that's true, right? What we focus on, we then put energy towards, and then that energy then magnifies that thing. So if we're constantly just focusing on our anxiety and the things that are going wrong with us, then we can get stuck there because our attention's always there. When actually we could focus on what can I do? What else gives me joy? Focusing on the positive and building those things in our lives. For my stress, often I notice, I'm lost in stress, and I could just stay in trying to, defend myself against self-judgment and criticism, or, work through the possible outcomes for a situation that I'm stressed about. Or I can just go for a run, go do some exercise, move the body, do something positive, So there is a space for that. But as I said earlier, if we only do that, then we're missing out part of the duality of life. If we are to only focus on the positive, that is to make the assumption that only the yang is good, and then grief and sadness and all of this stuff is bad. And this creates a duality, a judgment upon reality. Whereas the Taoists and the non-dualists from around the world, they invite us to see that positive and negative are just labels that we put onto different aspects of our experience. And actually, who can really say what is positive or negative? As we've already explored, when we stay with pain, we can go out onto the other side of it and find more freedom, more joy, more ease, because we're not resisting and bracing against ourselves. So this kind of positive thinking affirmations is dualistic. It's not actually really helping us see reality clearly, and it creates resistance. So if that's true on our individual level, it's also true on the level of our planetary healing, our societal healing. Because, with everything happening in the world, the war, the chaos, the injustice, climate breakdown, it can be easy to feel despairing about the state of humanity and what's coming for us. And that's a painful emotion to be with. And so most people don't face that. They know that something bad is going on, but they just get on with their lives. And then if you're one of the few people that choose to actually face the injustice in the world and the suffering that our current economic and political systems are causing, that's quite a big energy for us to hold. It can be painful to experience that. But in the same way that going into the darkness is essential for our personal healing, I would argue that it's also true for our collective healing. Because, one thing about capitalism in the modern world is I'm grateful for what society and capitalism has given me. And yet, two things can be true at the same time. Like this computer through which I'm talking to you at the moment, I'm so grateful for it. I spend so many hours on it. And yet, the cobalt was mined for this includes slave labor from different countries in the world, and is assembled by people that maybe should be paid more. And there's a huge amount of injustice involved in every aspect of our world. And the thing about the capitalist system is that we don't really feel that injustice. I just buy a nice computer and I take a lot of joy using that computer. And so I don't really get to feel the pain that is involved. There's a mountain of suffering upon which the luxury of People in, rich countries that have the free time to, meditate and do Tai Chi, I'm guessing most of us are privileged with varying amounts of privilege, but yeah, we don't see the pain that goes into the life that we create. So if we've then faced the pain and the despair, actually it is a gateway to deeper understanding, deeper interconnection, because we begin to see the interconnectedness of life. It's like even the things that, are beautiful and joyful, they also, like the yin yang, have a dark aspect to them. And if we just ignore that, then we're not really seeing the world clearly. And then we have, the corrupt and destructive economic and political systems that run our worlds, because they are ultimately legitimized by the people that don't say enough is enough, like this injustice doesn't justify the goods and services that we buy. Now that despair and that acknowledgement of the pain of the world is challenging. And again, a critique from maybe the spiritual cruise would be, well, don't focus on the negative because you're generating more of that negativity in the world. But that is to, again, put this duality into saying that pain is somehow inferior or bad, that we shouldn't be feeling it. Whereas actually we can see that pain as an energy to help us motivate action. And like if everything is perfect, which it's not an idea that I necessarily agree with, but this idea that God, the Tao, Brahman, the forces of nature, there is a sacredness, a divinity, a perfection to the universe that cannot be improved upon. And these are some of the core ideas that come out of spiritualities and religions from around the world. But then surely the pain and the suffering and the feeling of injustice and the wanting to contribute to a more beautiful world is part of that perfection. It is part of the great unfolding miracle. And to deny the value of that pain, of meeting the pain of the world, is to create a judgment in our head as to what should be experienced and what shouldn't be experienced. So how do we take these ideas on board is to maybe not fall into the trap that our societies give us to say that we should be running away from pain. We should avoid it at all costs. Because until we face it, it isn't sorted in our own lives, and until we face the injustice of our collective economic and political systems, there won't be the collective will to sort it either. Either way, peace is through the pain. No sorrow, no joy, in the words of Thich Nhat Hanh. Yeah, this is a nice example from Stephen where forest fires, super destructive, and yet the forest fires, they create loads of nutrients in the soil, create a space in which new life can come to be. And actually forest fires are part of the regenerative cycle of a resilient forest. Another metaphor that I love is it's the role of the pain. It's like it is necessary for our transformation. So if you imagine a Wild West film, cowboy film, and you've got the goody riding on the horse being chased by the baddies, and we're just going to ignore the genocidal connotations of the baddies being indigenous Americans and the goody being, originally some British guy. But so we've got the goody riding on the horse, and he's reaching a canyon. And the baddies are behind, and this canyon's closing in. Riding on the horse, he doesn't think he's going to make it. He doesn't think he's going to make it. And he sees just at the end of this canyon, there's just this very, very, very tight opening. And he's riding. There's no turning back. The baddies are getting closer and closer. And the goody just makes it through. The sides of the horse are getting scraped on either side of the rocks. He manages to make it through. Just as he does, boulders fall down, closing the opening. The baddies are on the other side. The goody gets away. So that's us, right? Unfortunately, things are going to be getting worse. We've got ecology, like the problems of our previous generations. If the Mongols invaded your local town, that was the end of the world for your town, but it wasn't going to affect people on another continent. But humanity now is so powerful that we are affecting the whole planet, and we are very rapidly and already overreaching the limits of which the planet can provide for us. And so that's just going to get worse as we put more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere and destroy more of the natural ecosystems upon which we rely. On top of then all of the social stuff that you know about, war and conflict. So things are going to get worse. But in some ways, the hidden injustice and pain of our current political and economic systems, like I shared with this laptop, so beautiful for the user, but then also has an awful lot of suffering that we don't get to see. The suffering needs to become visible. So it's like this, it's like it's closing in, things are getting worse, there's more pressure, but ultimately that is the aperture through which the transformation comes to be. In the same way that water can only transform into steam when there's enough heat and pressure, the pain is needed. And so hold on, because this is part of the reversion of a system that's out of balance, coming back into balance and finding a new balance. So can we trust that process? Not trusting that everything's going to work out exactly how we want it, but letting go of attachment to the outcome. It's like we can still care, but we still can surrender. This is so much bigger than all of us. We do have the freedom to enjoy our lives and to cultivate goodness and care and compassion and contribute to a more beautiful world, but it's bigger than us. So we don't need to take the burden of the world onto our shoulders, and we can hold on to hope, knowing that, that pain is needed for transformation. A quote that I share quite a lot is, what is hope? What is hope? Hope is not a state of the world. Hope is a state of mind, where we work towards something that's valuable in itself, not just because it's likely to happen. It's not a state of the world, state of mind, believing in something that's valuable in itself, not just because it's likely to happen. Repressed pain is more destructive than expressed pain. Nice, I like that. All human beings benefit from some release in the process of healing. Yeah, it's kind of like whack-a-mole. It's like, oh, don't feel my shame. Oh, don't acknowledge the childhood trauma. Oh, stay down there, anxiety. And we're just constantly bashing ourselves like, nope, not feeling that. Nope, not feeling that. Except from every time we do that, the moles, they're gathering under the surface, under the soil, and they're getting really angry about the fact that they're not being allowed to go out. And so they come back as saber-toothed moles. Repressed pain is much more destructive than expressed pain, because they come back with the ghoulies. They come back more powerful. Suddenly, the childhood trauma and the anxiety have merged together into a super mole that is even more destructive than if we would be able to relate with more compassion and kindness with either aspect. Patience. Pressure cookers make me think of patience. Now, if you want to have a beautiful meal in a pressure cooker and you want it just to stew, how like a vegan bolognese, if you had a little bit of dark chocolate and some wine, and then you leave it for hours, beautiful. The tastes, they merge into something beautiful and more transformative than could have been there if you just waited 30 minutes and then slapped it on the table. So, sometimes we need to wait for that which is beautiful to emerge and to trust the process. Another metaphor on that is Bamboo can stay under the surface for years, like 5, 8 years, never coming onto the surface. Then suddenly, there's one day that it just begins to shoot, and it can grow 1 meter a day. Nothing for 8 years, no sign of change, and then whoosh, suddenly transformation. So that's possible for you and me, whatever you're working with, maybe goals for things that you want to do, or the peace that you might want to find and the practices that you've committed yourself to. Sometimes we can feel like nothing is happening. What's the point in me doing anything? And then suddenly it comes. And if we were to give up the day before that new time of growth were to come, that would be a shame, because you're almost there. So hold on to your center. Breathe, keep going. We're just going to keep hitting you with patient metaphors. Here we go. A journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. The most famous line in the Tao Te Ching. Yeah, the journey of life is one that we can only take one day at a time, one moment at a time, one breath at a time. And so can we trust ourselves to just keep stepping step by step, piece by piece, part by part. So here's a good and challenging question. Can a mental illness be helpful in some way? We've been exploring how pain can actually be of service. There can be gifts from it. From my journey, I started in anxiety and really beating myself up, and my underminer, my inner critic, giving me a tough time. And that pain was the gateway to a whole new understanding of myself and a lot more peace. So that pain was the gateway. And, I haven't gone through times of intense depression, but I do have family and friend members that do. And, similar stories of how that depression, although really, really difficult, was a deep healing journey, one in which they asked for help, got therapy, processed some of their trauma, understood themselves better. The whack-a-mole thing we've been talking about, it's like if we just keep on not looking at it. I love that. The repressed emotions are more destructive than the expressed emotions. But then, obviously mental illness can lead to some people tragically taking their own lives and can be chronic. And so also just holding the pain with an awful lot of compassion and kindness, can feel, sometimes spiritual cliches like everything happens for a reason. This is the universe's teachings coming to you. Just open yourself up to what the gift is. So actually, no, I'm really hurting and I've been badly traumatized and I shouldn't have been treated that way. And this hasn't happened for a reason, except from now that, it has happened to me. What am I going to do with it? And really, the biggest gift that I can give to myself and the world is to heal. And then that's a gift that if you heal a deep trauma of yours, that's a gift that you can give to others who also go through deep trauma, given that we live in a traumatized world. So, I'm not a fan of the idea that everything happens for a reason and always look for the gifts. But there is always some learning. Always. And really, peace is about non-resistance. It's like, this is who I am. Trauma and all, warts and all, anxiety and all, self-judgment and all, busy in mind and all. And we find pain, we multiply our pain when we resist who we are. So there is a lot of healing to be found there. The healthy expression of boundaries. Like compassion and love isn't just saying yes to everything. Like the nourishing no, the thank you but no thank you. Here are my boundaries. You can still say no to people in a kind way, to protect yourself. So that's really important to remember on the compassion journey. It's not just this floppy roll over and let anything happen, but actually that compassion is powerful and can be transformative. On the subject of going with the flow, like just an invitation to really be your full weird self. A story came to mind of, quite a funny incident when I was just, enjoying being my weird self and giving myself permission to go with the flow. So I love walking backwards. It's good for the tibialis, good for knee pain. Walk backwards 10 minutes a day. Anytime you're going up a hill, turn around, go up backwards. It's going to transform your knees. It's a big one. And one day I was walking up a hill backwards, singing. So, a little bit unusual. And then this dog came over, barking at me. And the owner called from a distance saying, "He's just saying what we're all thinking." Which I thought was a very funny one-liner. So even the dog was like, "Who is this? This is some strange stuff going on." And the owner saying, it's just saying what we're all thinking. So, we have that permission to be ourselves and to be our full selves. And that non-resistance that we keep on talking about. It's like we can judge ourselves, and I judge myself, and if we can create more spaciousness with how we understand those judgments and still move our bodies, still just be free to be who we want to be and express ourselves without judgment. Oh, what freedom to be found. Yeah, the nourishing no I really love is, not like no is a scary word, and it's like this theme today has been about pain and our society not wanting us to experience pain, and so we say no to it. And we're scared actually to say the no, so we just distract ourselves. So to transform this word no to the nourishing no, it's actually a gift you're giving to someone else. It's like, if you're saying no, these are my boundaries, this is what I need, and this is who I am. It's actually a gift. Somebody else understands you more. And maybe, they're not skilled enough to really receive that gift. But a world in which more people hold their boundaries skillfully, without violence, with compassion, is a more peaceful and beautiful world. So, this skill that we're developing to express our boundaries with care is healing work, not only for ourselves, but for the planet. So the yin yang, how is there bad and the good? So we talked about how there's good and the bad, where, the pain can give us light, and the good transforming into the bad is, maybe we're craving onto and holding on to the good and trying to seek it. It's the duality need each other. So it's it's exactly what we've been talking about. It's like when we focus only on the good, then we don't see the world as clearly. So coming to mind is absolutist religion, where, the truth comes in the book, the all-loving God. And if you just believe in this book and the church that tell you this, then everything's going to be fine. Give up your doubts and give your faith to this truth, and everything will be fine. Believe in the light. Follow the light. But then in that process of just focusing on the light, we give up our power. We don't see the world clearly. We are then more susceptible to being corrupted. And really, God, or the great mystery that is the source of all of us, is not just light. It's also the darkness. It's like babies have cancer. Genocide happens. It's not all roses here. So if we just focus on the light, then we don't see clearly. And again, when we find the duality of both, being able to hold both challenge and ease, good and bad together, then we hold the true complexity, or closer to the truth of the complexity of the world. Which is that, things aren't all bad, things aren't all good. Human beings have great potential for wisdom and for peace and for understanding and healing and compassion. And we are born with really challenging tendencies. Pain can be really destructive and can destroy people, and it can be a great teacher. Like, two things can be true at the same time. So the good and the focus only on the good and the clinging to the good then transforms into the bad. And that's what we're seeing in the destructive systems that are destroying life on this planet. We need balance. So we'll call it a day there. An action to reflect about is, what are you not facing? What are you not allowing yourself to experience? And can you take a moment, if you feel resourced to be with it and to extend a load of kindness to yourself for the reality of pain? It's part of being human. And that opening up to pain is part of our healing. All right. Much love and gratitude to all of you. All right. All the best. See you next time. Ciao, ciao for now.